Hello everyone. Welcome to the episode of Architectural Heritage of India. Architecture is the matrix of civilization. It remains as the visible and material record of man's intellectual evolution through the ages. In India, our lofty ideas found their expression in numerous noble monuments. Admittedly, the outstanding quality of Indian architecture is its spiritual content. It represents in concrete form the prevailing religious consciousness of India. Let me say that it is the mind materialized in terms of rock, brick or stone. In this episode, let me share some details about the architectural heritage of India. The main objective of this episode is as follows: Buddhist and Jain architecture, architecture under the Delhi Sultanates, Mughal architecture, Indo-European architecture and Gurdwaras, and temple architecture. Introduction. Unfortunately, the earliest forms of wooden temples did not survive. It is due to the vagaries of the climate and other natural calamities. The earliest known phase of the building art in India dates back to the Indus times around 3000 BC or a little beyond that age. Those specimens are available at Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Though their buildings do not evince any artistic value, their town planning is something astonishing. During Vedic times, no traces of buildings are found, as theirs was a pastoral culture. The Vedic people made huts using bamboo sticks and leaves. It was the Mauryans who paid attention to architecture. Wonderful places built, initially in wood, was later replaced by stones. This is a great transition in construction. This led to the progress in architecture. At least up to the coming of Buddha and Buddhism, there was no serious thinking about architecture. Indian architecture is a rich amalgam of various architectural styles. You can witness it in due expressions of influences of various regions, religions, and dynasties. Thematically, Indian architecture is indeed a celebration of the creativity of the unsung artisans who dedicated their lives to bring to life such amazing pieces of enviable beauty. Buddhist and Jain architecture. The Mauryas were the earliest people who paid attention to architecture. They constructed wonderful palaces using wood. They in due course modified the old structures with the use of stone, but they used the same models. This transition in the construction led to the progress in architecture. Buddhist monuments. The Buddhist monuments of that age indicate not only the origin of the religious architecture, but also formed the basis for the development of temple architecture. Among Mauryas, particularly Asoka Maurya, was responsible for the introduction of rock art architecture. He initiated the carvings of Buddhist chaityas and viharas near Gaya. Gradually, their process drifted to the peninsular and western India. Use of stone. The Buddhists were the earliest people who used stone for their art practices. There were no ornamental or decorative elements. Their structures were simple in plan, design, principles, and techniques. The use of stone for the creation of monuments led them to be long-standing. They even widened the scope in adopting new and admirable techniques in the future. They centered mostly around religious architecture. Due to Greek or Persian contacts, Asoka was able to erect stupas, pillars, and carved caves. This formed the basis for the future Hindu style of temple architecture. The temple architecture emerged out of certain specific features. Centers of Buddhist architecture. Since India is the birthplace of Buddha, several places are known for Buddhist art and architecture. They are Bharut, Mathura, Kukihar, Sanchi, Saranath, Nalanda, Nagarjunakonda, Karle, Bhaja, Barabat Caves, Bedsa, Nasik, Kanheri, Nagapattinam of Tamil Nadu, and Gandhara, Ajanta, Vajrasana of Bihar, Chaityas and Viharas. In addition to the above, Buddhist Chaityas Viharas are also exist in different places of India. They are centers of attraction for the domestic tourists. They are mostly pilgrim tourist centers. The Greek and Indian sculptures, by their joint ventures, were able to promote the Gandhara art with Buddhist motifs. The holy places associated with Buddhism serve the cause of religious tourist centers. Jain contribution to rock cut architecture. The Jain art and architecture also finds a significant place in the art history of India. The Jain caves dates back to period between 5th and 12th century AD. The Digambara Jains adopted this. The Shvetambaras lived mostly with the common people. They too assigned importance to pillared chambers. The Manastamba is a unique contribution of the Jains. The system of using pillars stopped after the Gupta age. Jain caves. It is believed that the caves in Odisha are attributed to the Jains. They are mostly modelled as those of the gateways of Sanchi and the Vihara at Bhaja. The Hathigumba cave has figures of Jain order. Jain Tirthangara figures are found in it. Certain caves at Ellora evince Jain impacts. Cave number 4 of Badami is a Jain cave. At Aihole, there is a Jain temple. It is partly carved and partly structured. Jains at South. The Jains gradually migrated into South India from Shravanabelagola. From there, they moved to the further south into Tamil country. The places such as Kungar Puliyangulam, Vikramangalam, Mutupatti, Samanarmalai, Tiruparakundram, Anamalai, Aritapatti, Mangulam, Kilavalalu around Madurai contain Jain caves with polished rock cut beds and figures of Jain Tirthangaras. Jain structural temples are seen at places like Dharampuri, Tingalur, Vijayamangalam, Mudikondar, etc. The figure of Gomateshwara at Shravanabelagola and Bombali at Dharmasthala are Jain monuments. Architecture under the Delhi Sultanates. Slave dynasty. Thanks to Qutb-ud-Din Aibak, the first ruler who introduced the Islamic architecture in India, the slave dynasty was responsible for the construction of Qutb Minar, Quwwat-ul-Islam Mosque at Delhi, the Dhai Dinka, Jonpara, etc. Qutb Minar was started by Qutb-ud-Din and completed by Iltutmish. This architectural monument stands for beauty, quality and stability. This new style was hitherto unknown to the Hindus. Iltutmish at Badaun constructed the Hauzi-e-Shansi, Shaham-e-Idgah and Jami Masjid. The Jami Masjid is a wonderful example of Delhi architecture. The mausoleum of Iltutmish at Old Delhi and the Red Palace of Balban, etc. stand for their unique style. Architecture under Khiljis. The Khiljis also devoted to architecture. The places of Hazar Sitam, the city Siri, the Jamait Khan tomb, the Dargah of Nizamuddin, the Alai Darwaza, the Qutb Minar, Hauzi Alai and Hauzi Khas are the works of Alauddin. These buildings are the examples of Arabic style of architecture. Importance was assigned to decoration ornamentation and arches. Tughlaq dynasty. The Tughlaqs continued their patronage to architecture. Among them, Firoz was an eminent builder. Many cities, places, mosques, tanks and gardens were the results of his efforts. They adopted the Hindu forms in the pillars, doors, windows, brackets, etc. Architecture under Sayyid and Lodhis. The Sayyids and Lodhis revived the old style of architecture. They have concentrated more on embellishments and decorative elements. The tomb of Sikandar Lodhis is a suitable illustration for this. Lodhi are remembered for the remarkable piece of architecture. The Mughal architecture. The imperial Mughals were eminent builders. Their zeal and enthusiasm to promote architecture is boundless. From Babur to Shah Jahan, almost all the Mughal emperors were keen on promoting architecture. They concentrated on domes, the central minarets of mosques, the magnificent pillared halls, the wonderfully carved and painted arches, the big gateways, the darwazas, etc. The Mughal architecture could be classified into two phases. During the first phase, up to the end of Akbar's period, red stone was used. In the second phase, red stones were replaced by white marbles. Shah Jahan was mostly responsible for the use of white marbles as decorative elements. The Taj Mahal is an excellent specimen. Architecture under Babur and Humayun, Akbar the Great. Babur built different mosques at Agra, Sikri, Bayana, Gwalior, etc. The mosques at Agra, Panipat, Santala alone are exciting now. Akbar. It will be apt to mention that Akbar was responsible for the introduction of Mughal architecture in India. He employed both Hindu and Muslim architectures in a harmoniously blended manner. The Jahangiri Mahal within the Agra fort and the Fatehpur Sikri and the imperial capital in the Lahore are influenced by Hindu art. The Agra and Lahore forts, the tomb of Humayun is the wonderful artwork produced through the efforts of Akbar. Fatehpur Sikri near Agra was made as the new capital by Akbar. It is a paradise of Mughal architecture. Jodhbhai's palace, the palace of Sultana Mariam, the house of Birbal, the Sonahala Makan of Prince Ambar, the Diwan-e-Am, it is the Emperor's office of Hindu design, the Diwan-e-Khas, it is the hall or palace of 5 stories, the Jami Masjid, the Buland Darwaza and tomb of Salim Chishti are also there. The Pancha Mahal is a pyramidal style. The Jami Masjid is the finest specimen of Mughal architecture. The Buland Darwaza is a massive triumphal archway. Architecture under Jahangir. Jahangir is so much interested in pleasure gardens. His garden works are seen at places like Udaipur, Lahore, Srinagar and Fatehpur Sikri. The Moti Masjid, the tomb of Itimad ud-Dawla at Agra are the outcome of the reign of Jahangir. Shah Jahan was an eminent and prolific builder among the Mughal monarchs. He constructed forts, mosques, palaces, gardens, tombs, etc. Most of them are present at Delhi, Agra, Lahore, Kabul, Kandahar, Ajmer, Ahmedabad, Kashmir and other areas. They stand for elegance and grace. He devoted more attention on decoration and ornamentation. The Mughal architecture reached its highest watermark during the period of Shah Jahan. They are known for perfection and quality. Their excellent form captivates all the eyes. Shah Jahan's architecture has its own unique features. He avoided the use of red sandstone and used marble. Sandstone and white marble were used in plenty. You can witness subtle changes in the techniques also. Use of the colored tiles was avoided. Colored stones were employed. The artisans used their instruments such as marble cutter and polisher. The Rang Mahal, the Diwani Khas in Delhi fort are wonderful. Besides Jami Masjid and Moti Masjid, his buildings are known for the exterior decoration and colored glass titles. Taj Mahal, the perfect monument in the evolution of Mughal architecture, is celebrated building in white marble. It reveals the scientific thought, artistic merit and splendid layout. The walls have colored marbles and precious stones are used in delicate pattern. The splendor and tall minarets add up to the infinite beauty of the monument. Indo-European architecture, the colonial style. The advent of Europeans also brought about the development of architecture in India. The Portuguese settled in the west coast of the peninsular India, constructed churches and palaces. They are the specimens of Gothic style of architecture. In the provincial headquarters such as Mumbai, Chennai and Kolkata, they adopted the style called the colonial style. The Indian buildings exhibited the contribution of Gothic, Roman and Victorian architecture. Revivalism. With the commencement of the 20th century, two distinctive schools of Indian architecture came into existence. One was called Revivalist group. This group was keen on reviving the native indigenous order. In general, their buildings had the combination of Hindu and Muslim styles. Modern school. The other group, called the advocates of progressive and modern schools, adopted Western techniques. This school flourished better. The Victoria Memorial Hall at Kolkata is a suitable example for that. They kept away from the Indian elements. Importance was not given for beauty or ornamentation. Much importance was assigned to simplicity. It may be pointed out that Indo-European architecture exhibit the influence of Gothic, Roman and Victorian architecture. Now, let me say a few words about sacred Sikh centers. Gurudwaras. The 6 sacred centers are known as Gurudwaras. Nearly 100 Gurudwaras are prominent. Gurudwara means the place where the Guru resides. They are the Sikh temples. Northern India abounds in the Gurudwaras where the devout Sikhs converge every day to pay obeisance to their holy book. Golden Temple. The Golden Temple, the most sacred pilgrimage of the Sikhs, is located in the holy city of Amritsar, once the dense forest home of Guru Nanak. The Gurudwaras are mostly in the Mughal style of architecture. The Golden Temple at Amritsar is the chief and exquisite Gurudwara. It attracts all the domestic and foreign tourists. Churches in India. The origin of church in India is traced to the Apostle Thomas. He is believed to have visited India and preached the gospel here. The British rule for almost 300 years led to the progress of Christianity in India. Resultantly, numerous churches are established as centers of religious and social life. These churches are lavishly built with their unique style of architecture. Quite a few are built of marble with beautiful gems and semi-precious stones inlaid in them. Architecture under the native rulers. The native rulers like Nawabs and aristocrats too contributed their best to the development of Indian architecture. The Birla Mandir at Delhi, the Jain Temple of Glass at Indore, etc. could be assigned to this period. Now let me discuss about temple architecture. Around 6th century AD, the Hindus and Jains showed keen interest in accepting stone as the medium for architecture. To begin with, rock-cut cave temples and monolithic rock temples were created. Subsequently, they served as models for the structural temples of different ages by various rulers. The Sungas, the Guptas, were devoted to temple architecture in the north. The Satavahanas, Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas and Pallavas marked the introduction of temple architecture in the south. For instance, the Pandyas, Cholas, Hoysalas, Vijayanagar rulers and Nayaks too developed it. The temples erected during the 6th and the 7th centuries survive even today. The Hindu rulers, nobles, merchants, merchant guilds, artisans and even common public did their best in revitalizing the temple architecture. A lot of small or large temples came up. Frequently they were modified, additions were made and ceremonies as well as rituals continued. Temples stood as the glorified aspect of life. Such zeal and enthusiasms were more in South India than in the north. Naturally, South India has become the paradise of temples and fostered the development of temple architecture. The temple complex. The temple complex, by its very nature and requirement, contributed to the promotion of daily rituals and ceremonies. Such ceremonies and functional developments demanded a large number of specific mandapas. The Ardha Mandapa and Muha Mandapas, the Nirukta Mandapa, Vasanta Mandapa, Kalyana Mandapa, 1,000-pillared halls and separate shrines for the Lord and his consort besides Parivara Devadas, etc. The emergence of temple complex also favored the development of iconography and iconometry. Idols of deities are created in different postures. In addition, every deity is associated with a specific mount. For example, bull is the mount of Shiva, eagle is the mount of Vishnu, and Subramanya is associated with a peacock mount. The temple complex too enhanced its prestige. The temple prakaras contain unpolluted fresh air. The gardens and tanks created around the temples enhance the ambience of the entire temple complex. In Kerala, the roofs of the temples are not flat. They will be slanting and avoid the stagnation of the rainwater. So it is evident that the temple architecture stands for the scientific and technological skills of the artisan. In Hindu temples, the sanctum sanctorium and Ardha Mantapa are separated. Further importance is also assigned to circumambulation of the primary deity. The main shrine is treated as the sacred place where the deity is expected to dwell. It also indicates the quality of the supreme being which could not be understood by common mind. Temples and tourism. Certain basic and fundamental knowledge of temple architecture will be beneficial for tourists. It is needless to emphasize that for pilgrimage tourism it is quite essential. The ancient temples reveal the artistic brilliance and reflect the brighter side of a culture. Let us understand that the temples are not mere monuments, but they serve as repositories of historical details. Even today, the marriages are solemnized in temples and churches. Music and dance also echo the rhythms of these traditions. The temple architecture attracts not only the followers of Hinduism, but also those tourists who are art lovers. The Buddhist monuments extol the glory of Indian artistic tradition. The Sikhism founded by Guru Nanak was developed and protected by later gurus. Their center for religious worship known as Gurudwaras are also meant for social congregation. The piety, simplicity and services of Sikhs at Gurudwaras is something wonderful. Among the religions which came from outside the country, Islam and Christianity deserves attention. The Islamic monuments and churches built for worship later became tourist centers. The temples, churches, mosques and gurudwaras, known for their architectural splendor, attract the tourists who are interested in art, architecture and culture. Let us sum up. The Buddhists gave importance to the architectural buildings. The stupas, chaityas and viharas became popular because of their efforts. The chaitya is a prayer hall of the Buddhist monks. This too contains a stupa, which is a symbol of Buddha. The interior portion of the hall is equal to the altars of the modern Christian churches. The viharas are the residential areas of the Buddhist monks. The Jains and the Hindus followed the Buddhist traditions in the construction of their temples. The slave dynasty introduced Islamic architecture. After that, the Khiljis, Tughlaqs, Lodhis also contributed to architecture by way of providing mosques, tall minarets, portals, etc. The Mughal dynasty also contributed immensely for the development of the architecture in India. It is no exaggeration to say that Delhi tourism is completely dependent on Mughal architectural beauties like Red Fort and Taj Mahal. Let me conclude that the architectural marvels of India are the 2D attraction which is extremely popular among the international travelers. India is truly incredible, for it is the gorgeous land enshrining temples, stupas, chaityas, viharas, palis, mosques, churches and gurudwaras. Thank you.